Hello, Techno team. I'm back. I'm an overachiever today. I'm planning on knocking out a few videos if possible today. All right. So we're going to navigate here to the predictions page. So this is the home page, obviously, of the website. We're going to the predictions page. And literally, the last two examples we just did were how to connect the space-time clocks to the mental macro, the year cycle, and the mental micro, the 7.5 day cycle. And you can see why I modified that page because we got to scroll down here a ways before you get to a live space-time clock. So this was the clock we were just looking at. You can see that we did this example. We're halfway through the year. We're 75% of the way through the micro mental. And if you look at the emotional macro, the capital E is emotional macro, we're 75% of the way through. So we could come up here and look and we can go, okay, so here's the emotional macro. On the space clock, it's going to be in the red section. We're 75% of the way through. So it's red section pointing at the orange and green shape. We come down here. Here's the purple hand. It's in the red section, and it's pointing at the orange and green shape, this combined shape right here. And if you go, well, it kind of looks like it's at the orange again, come over here. See, there's two letters, IO. That means it's pointing at this dual shape. And now we can come up here, and it specifically tells you what the objective is for the space side, okay? And then we do the same thing for the time. We know it's at 75%, so it's in the yellow quadrant. It's going to be pointing at an orange shape. So if we come down here, we find the long purple hand. It's in the yellow quadrant, and it's pointing at that orange shape. And as always, it can sometimes look like it's in between shapes. If you're unsure, you would just come here, and you see that there's only a single letter, so we know that it's pointing at the octahedron, this single orange shape. Now, you go ahead and you can read through these objectives if you want, but now you understand what's creating the macro objective, how it relates to the micro objective, and how our technology is organizing this, okay? So the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to talk about these physical macros. The physical macro relates to Lord Vishnu, okay? And Lord Vishnu is pretty badass when it comes to how he organizes physical time. We can really learn a lot. And if we synchronize with Lord Vishnu's pattern, this is how we would optimize. This would be the quickest way to optimize because this cycle is repeating the quickest. It's the quickest macro. And if we synchronize with this cycle, what it's going to do is it's going to allow us to kind of have a day by day instruction on how we would want to progress in order to help ourselves optimize our individual health, where we'd want to focus to optimize our community health, where we'd want to focus to start to bridge this into larger perspectives. Okay, so we're going to transition now. We're going to talk about this combined chart. Now, this chart does multiple things. So when it comes to the macro physical awarenesses, that's what we're going to talk about is this macro physical 12-hour cycle. It organizes the macro physical into 4-day sequences. For example, we're in day one, 6:19, 1:47 a.m. UTC. So this cycle would have started in India at 7:17 a.m. this morning. Now, we can come into the sequence 4 day one. We'd come down here, we'd look at sequence 4, and it tells you exactly what day one's going to be. Or if we're in sequence 4 and we're in day 3, first 12 hours, this is the objective. Second 12 hours, this is the objective. That's how this works. And these are happening rather quickly, okay? So this is something where if you notice from day to day that you're not feeling like you used to, like one day you've got energy and everything seems to be good, and then all of a sudden the next day you're like, what the heck is going on? I don't feel good today. That's what's happening. And remember, this cycle is connected to Lord Vishnu, okay? And Lord Vishnu is the preserver. So what we'd want to do is we would want to synchronize with this day-by-day cycle because what it's going to do is it's going to give us different directions via every day. One day we're going to focus on family. The next day we're going to focus on individual. The next day we're going to focus on community or national. And the next day we're going to focus on how we collaborate with the world. That's how this works. And it's the best way to learn because what you do is you force yourself into a routine where you're constantly having to expand your awareness, and that's how you're going to preserve. The other cycles take a long time. And if you're trying to synchronize with the other cycles, what happens is you're missing out on the day-to-day objective, okay? And the day-to-day objective is really where you put in the time and the energy to start to develop and expand your awareness. This is why Lord Vishnu is the preserver And this is the best pattern to try to synchronize with, especially if you're not feeling well. It's also a good way to understand which objectives you're having trouble with, because every 12 hours is going to be this specific objective. And if all of a sudden one day you have right shoulder pain, but then for 12 hours your right shoulder pain really gets bad, you're going to know that that was connected to this 12-hour physical macro. All right, so this chart has a lot of things going on. So there are 4-day sequences and there are 7 sequences total. So what does that mean? It means that we repeat through Lord Vishna's sequences every 28 days. So within a solar year, 365 days, we go through 364 macro objectives, physical macro objectives. Now, why 364 and not 365? That's just the cycles. We go through 364 cycles, but those cycles take just over 365 days to complete. This is because some plutonic solids are efficient and some plutonic solids aren't as efficient. Now, if you didn't know this, I'm telling you, every single time the Earth goes around the sun, a solar year, it's different every year. They never are the same. Every single year is a different length, and every season within every year is a different length because of this pattern. This pattern explains why that's happening, and it shows which plutonic solids are in control and why that variation is happening. Now, I'm only saying this because once you synchronize with Lord Vishnu's pattern, you literally do it 13 times a year, every single year. And that's how you're going to expand awareness the quickest. And this is why the Hindu religion would have called him the preserver. Ain't no doubt about it. Now, I want to talk about this chart a little bit more here because I want you to start navigating to this web page and checking this out so you understand what's coming. This is the collective chart. This is showing what's being tested of everything that exists in space and time. So, for example, when you're looking at what we're showing here, we're showing body test load. And for example, you can see that the upper left quadrant, there's quite a bit going on here. So the more color you see, that means the more those quadrants of the body are being tested by all of the different cycles of time. So if you're having left upper quadrant pain and it's going on and it's been going on for a few days, you'd want to scroll up here and go, well, I've been hurting for more than a couple days now. So that has to be either the emotional macro, because you see how that's going to the left upper quadrant, or that's the mental micro, that's going to the left upper quadrant. These aren't going to the left upper quadrant. The mental macro is right upper quadrant and right lower quadrant. So if upper left shoulder problem has been an issue for any team member, it's telling you're out of balance with the mental micro or you're out of balance with the emotional macro, and chances are you're probably out of balance with both of them. We all are. None of us are living in a life that any of the gods would be happy with right now. Just look at our creation and see how unorganized and how chaotic it is. We're expected to organize, we're expected to synchronize, we're expected to serve creation, which means we would have to serve Brahma, we would have to serve Shiva, and we would have to serve Vishnu in order to create that balance. We have to balance our mental rhythms, we have to overcome our emotional downfall, and we have to start to invest in physical routines that are going to create a peaceful and prosperous future. And if we don't, now you know why you're hurt. Okay, now I want to briefly talk about this too. This combined agitation, or this third person agitation or first person agitation levels. So when a cycle changes, so when we change from one cycle to another, it creates an electromagnetic energy. And that energy is created from one cycle as positive to another cycle that's negative, or vice versa, a negative cycle to a positive cycle. And those alternating influences, that's what's causing all of this disturbance here. That's what we're showing. When we go through the summer solstice, so you can see day 2, third person agitation is going to ramp up. And then you can see from day 3, third person agitation goes away and first person agitation goes through the roof. This is because we've changed cycles. We've changed a cycle from a reverse cycle to a forward cycle. That's all that means. And during this time, it's going to be newsworthy. I mean, if you've been watching the news and you've been watching the weather and the destruction that's been happening around the world, it is noticeable right now. I promise you, it's going to become even more noticeable. We are going to peak day 2 and day 3, and then by day 4, it's going to slowly come down. Now, this is sequence 4, okay? Here we go. Here's sequence 5. I want you to see in sequence 5 how electromagnetics come down. Agitation levels are going to drop off. So we're going to have some climactic events that are going to happen in the collective reality that we all share. In addition, I'm telling you this because not a lot of people, everyone that exists in space-time is going to be affected by this. Your family and community members are going to be agitated, and they're going to be short, and it's going to be easy to want to fight. And this is where you're going to know, because I've been showing you this, you're going to go, hey, Trey warned me about this. And before you have a fight with your wife or before you have a fight with your child, what you don't realize is what they're having to deal with internally. If your child is acting out, or your significant other, or you and your partner aren't getting along, this is part of the equation. And this is something that we have to work through. This is the idea of that yogi enlightenment, being able to overcome that internal desire to want to have conflict. Now, I want you to see how this collective page works before we get into your individual rhythms, because pretty soon I'm going to start doing individual rhythmic analysis, and you're going to see that sometimes somebody's rhythms are going to be elevated at an elevated time, and that's really, really hard for them to stay level-headed. And other times they're going to go through these elevated moments in time, and their internal rhythms are going to be relaxed, and it's going to be a lot easier for them to go through these moments without losing control. Okay, that's how space and time manipulates us. It is using this unseen pattern of agitation to make us fight and argue. This down here is telling you where the cycles are going to test you. And you can see when we get into this next sequence, for anybody that's been having right neck and shoulder pain or headaches this year, you're going to feel it more in sequence 5. That's what these are all about. So in closing, please, 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 and I'm going to remind you this tomorrow as well, be very cautious. This collective agitation that's coming, I don't want it tripping you up with any of your family, with any of your friends. If anyone starts to become agitated, wants to fight, create conflict, figure out how to put that fire out. And understand that you are not going to be able to take that agitation away, but what you can do is not make it worse right now, okay? I'm trying to empower all of you to find that yogi-like state. I want you to start to understand this pattern in a way where you can start to overcome all those internal feelings that get us into conflict. Okay. And if anybody has any questions on any of the material we've covered before we start to get into how this is integrated with personal rhythms, and I'm going to use my personal rhythms as an example so all team members can see it, I strongly recommend by the time we get done with that everyone sends birth data. You are going to want to know what your internal rhythms are. It is a huge advantage. We can drastically help improve relationship and anticipate stress before it happens. That's what this technology is all about. Can't wait for that. Talk to you soon.